This week, there's two major sections here. One is almost the entire week they were filming on a road, showing these different roads that they're traveling to and from. So this gives us insight into the cities that they're going to. But then the end of the week, we actually get our first look at Caesarea Philippi. So we've got this scene starting off in day 51. Again, like I said, it's all on this one road, basically. So as we look at these, we're going to see this road a lot, or at least different roads if they're changing areas. Some of them are, but a lot of them are going to be roads traveling to and from. So this whole entire week was out in the hot sun, out in the middle of nowhere with the fire ants and the dust and everything. So here's how we go.
Hey, I'm shifting my village, but I can't do church for all Catholic churches. There's 19, but I can do a couple if they need to sit down. Hey, Erica, follow me.
Oh, so we got this little bit here. I added this in because specifically on this day of filming, day 51, this is the last tiny little bit of information that we're going to get from that calendar that we talked about a few weeks ago. Remember the calendar that one of the cast, or one of the crew members rather, shared with us. It shows us a lot of information and a ton of information that we weren't quite sure about that was able to be confirmed from this calendar. This is another one. I know it's super hard for you guys to read, but I'm looking at specifically this little yellow section right here. This is the only little bit that we can see from day 51, but we can see what road they're actually on. And just in case you can't read it here, it says road to Tel Dor. And so if you remember Tel Dor, we talked about this in season 3. This is where Rhema's father is. So it looks like we're going back to Tel Dor, and not only is Rhema going back there, but it looks like the rest of the group may be coming with them, maybe to go, figure out the whole relationship with Thomas and Rhema. Could be really interesting to see. I wonder if we're going to see Kaufney again. My guess is that, yeah, for sure we would. I don't know. It seems really interesting overall, but we'll kind of see how that plays out. I wasn't expecting them to go back to Tel Dor. I mean, I expected Kaufney to show up at some point in the season or in the series again, but I really wasn't expecting it this early. So I wonder if it's going to just tie into the whole Thomas and Rhema marriage story or whatever there. Still interesting. I'm excited to see what that's all about. As we continue on, we get to this point here. This is little James, Jordan Ross. They are always playing sports, whether it's Frisbee or football or whatever, on set. And he says, so that's why they don't like me playing football on set. And he obviously fell down and hurt his knee, bleeding there a little bit. This is obviously like something that they want to be very careful of, especially when it comes to the actors, right? They want to be very careful that they're not hurting themselves on set. Imagine if like in the middle of shooting, one of them got a broken arm or something, like that would be absolutely the worst. So I wonder if they put any more regulations on that for sure, but it looks like they had a little bit too much fun this last week. Now, this is another small little piece here. We see that actually Barnaby and Shula are wrapped, so they're not shooting anymore, which means that we probably won't see Barnaby and Shula at some of the later scenes that we're theorizing, such as maybe the triumphal entry, if that's actually going to be happening. Maybe they won't be a part of that. Maybe it would just be too many characters all in one place for that to be the case. So who knows? But they're not in any of the rest of the season. So they've shot all their scenes and they're done here. Looks like they are going to be traveling though to some location, possibly one of the Perean villages that we've talked about, or different areas like that. So I don't know, but they are done shooting for this season. So we get that this week. Now here's a small scene we see with Roman soldiers as well as the whole group. Basically, Jesus and all the followers, including the women, as far as I can tell, are all here. Now, we know from the calendar, again, that this is most likely them traveling to Bethany, because we see a lot of these different scenes kind of coming up all throughout. And on that calendar, a lot of these scenes are just road to Tel Dor, road to Bethany, road to blah, blah, blah. And so we're seeing all of these kind of come up over and over again. And here we're seeing, I think, what is Bethany. But who knows, to be honest. But it's anybody's guess. But from the calendar, my guess is that this is the road to Bethany here.
Halt! Jewish citizens!
So you see halt Jewish citizens, that's what the Roman says, and then we see all of these, all of our main cast of characters, right? We see Jesus and Simon in the front, who's maybe known by Peter at this point, who knows? And then we see Judas and Matthew and Simon Z, Mary, Tamar, and a bunch of the other boys behind. I wonder if Rama's part of this group or not. I don't know. So here's another angle of, I assume, that same scene right here. Oh, you know what that might be? I just had like a huge brain blast. Okay. So, hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, I wanted to let you know that not even half of the people that watch our channel are actually subscribed. So we could be closer to 60 or even 100,000 subscribers if you would just help me and press that button. My goal right now is actually to pass Rabbi Jason Sobel in subscribers. So if you want to help me do that, make sure you subscribe, and that would be amazing. Anyway, thanks. Let's continue on with the video. So if we look at what they have here, you can see that they're carrying all of their gear in front of them. Okay. Okay. Let me pull up the scripture real fast. This could be a really cool moment in scripture because, okay, so as far as I understand, and I hope I'm getting this right, but as far as I understand, so in Roman law, when a Roman is carrying his gear, right? And he's like traveling somewhere or whatever else, I believe there's a law in which the Roman can make a Jewish citizen carry their gear for a certain amount of time. And generally this is a mile outside of a city, okay? So potentially this could be the group leaving outside of the city, and the Romans are asking them to carry their gear. And so this is actually a part of the Sermon on the Mount. So it says, you have heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him also. And if anyone would sue you, take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. If anyone forces you to go with him 2 miles, give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. So, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. So this is where we get the saying, go the extra mile, okay? Because if the Roman soldier forces you to take his luggage, right, 1 mile outside the city, then Jesus is saying, no, you should do that 1 mile, and then you should go the extra mile to show love and mercy and grace even to your enemy, right? So maybe that's what we're seeing here. Maybe that's why they're holding their gear like this, because we have never seen Romans hold gear like this before. That's really, really interesting. I didn't think about that before when I was watching this, but just now it came to me thinking about that, because he specifically says, halt Jewish citizens. So why would he say that specifically? We haven't really heard that terminology before, but maybe it's so that this can be a portion that comes through. Why would he bring back I don't know why Dallas would add a part of the sermon here, but it does make sense. Maybe it's a callback to the Sermon on the Mount. Maybe it's just another way of him wanting to teach this very specific thing. I don't know. It could be really anything, but it's interesting that we do see them carrying their gear like this, because we really have not seen that from Roman soldiers yet in the series at all. Even when we've seen them travel to go like arrest Jesus or do different things. So anyway, let's watch this again.
Halt! Jewish citizens.
Yeah, really interesting. I don't know what the context is, but it definitely could be that. Then we got some pictures from this last week. We see Thomas and the rest of the gang on the top one. They've been traveling a lot. So this season is going to be really interesting because, for example, if we go to the map of Israel, we're going to be going all over this season. So I have Tel Dor kind of pointed out here to show you exactly where that is. But here's the Sea of Galilee, right? Capernaum is right up here. So we got Capernaum right up here. Put that in the center, right up there. And then if we zoom out from Capernaum, we're going to see them go to Tel Dor, apparently. And then we're also going to see them go all the way to Perea, which is, again, Capernaum, way up here. And then we have Perea, which is kind of over here on the right side of the Dead Sea, okay? This is where Machaerus is. Like, Machaerus is right here. This is where John will be beheaded, okay? And Perea is this area over here near the Dead Sea on the right side of it. And this is where we know that the disciples are going to be for something. We don't know why they're there, but they are going to be there for something. We're also going to see them go to Tel Dor. We're also going to see them go to Jerusalem. So they're going to be all over Israel this season, traveling more than we've ever seen them before. They're also going to go to Caesarea Philippi, which is up here somewhere, I think. I can't remember where it is exactly. I'd have to look it up, but it is somewhere in the area as well. I can't remember every location here. My map brain for Israel is still developing for sure, but yeah, really, really interesting. So we do see them traveling here. We're traveling a lot in this season. We also see, obviously, Simon, Shahar, and Dallas there as they're kind of hanging out and chatting through some stuff. And then Dallas and Jonathan talking through some stuff as well. We see Jesus with a staff, which we really haven't seen him have before. But it seems like he's traveling with that, at least in some of these scenes. So that's pretty cool. Then we also get these behind-the-scenes shots that Jordan Walker Ross got during a pivotal season 4 scene. This may be the changing of Peter's name. It may be some other things. Or he may just be saying that it's a pivotal scene when it's really not. Who knows? We'll find out eventually, I'm sure. But very, very cool. So here's the pictures that we got from that. We get Shula, and then we have Peter and Matthew there. And then we also have Matthew and then some of the other guys all out in the Utah wilderness, right? Kind of in the Israel wilderness here.
Whenever you do.
Now, here was a small conversation that we got behind the scenes of between Shahar and Dallas. Really interesting conversation, just talking about how Shahar thinks about language and his Hebrew roots and how does he determine language. Being, at least bilingual, he may know more languages than just 2. And he's got to know at least portions of other languages as well, I'm sure. But let's listen to this.
Any of your your kind of ad-lib mumbling, it's typically in Hebrew, right?
Yeah.
Do you think in Hebrew?
Yeah. I think and I dream and
Last looks on Joe and Noe, please.
Well, even on a day like today where you're speaking only in English, do you still think in Hebrew?
That's hard, I have to point out. But,
one of my biggest regrets is I wish I would have learned a second language.
do it.
Yes. That'd be a nice goal for me.
Which one would you choose if one?
Spanish.
Spanish?
Yeah. Because I'm in Texas and in California. And,
Yeah, I thought that was a cool conversation. Nice to kind of see their interaction there and to hear their thoughts about, just Shahar speaking in Hebrew. I think this is one of the main reasons why we don't see him in a lot of interviews and stuff, is because he's probably uncomfortable with the English language as a whole. Maybe he knows how to speak English. He understands a lot of English, but maybe he would get tripped up. And so maybe he's self-conscious about that, which is why we don't really see him in a lot of interviews or different things like that. So that's probably my guess as to why. We get some more pictures here, including Judas and Matthew and Mary and Philip and Nathaniel. We're going to see a break in this season at some point. I don't know exactly when it happens, but we're going to talk about it when we watch the YouTube video in just a bit here. In the YouTube video, we see that they actually get new clothing, right? And so with them getting new clothing, this kind of marks a new territory for the season. So we know that as they're wearing their old clothing, like in this shot, in this top part, on this top photo here, that this is probably earlier on in the season. And then on the bottom, and then later on when we see their new clothing, it's probably later on in the season. However, we do see Jesus here with a staff, kind of looking like a good shepherd. Maybe that's a piece of that that's going to be into play in season 4. Who knows? Then we also got some more images here, one of Rhema at the top, and she seems to be the focal point of this scene. Even some of the characters in the scene are looking at her. So maybe this is her meeting Kaphni on the road to Tel Dor. That's definitely a possibility, right? Or it could be, I don't know. Definitely looks like Rhema's the focus of this, though, and they're talking to someone specifically. unless she's just standing behind someone else who's the focus. But it really looks like Simon the Zealot, is looking at her as well as little James. So it looks like she's probably the focus of the scene. And why would they take a picture of her specifically looking in this way in the middle of a random scene? So that's my thoughts. Bottom one, we know Joanna's coming back, and that she is that this is in Machaerus. So this is before the banquet happens, or maybe right after, who knows. We know that she's going to sneak out of Machaerus and go to Capernaum to basically warn the followers of Jesus and tell them what happened. But here she is either before or after that banquet. My guess would be before, as she's kind of getting ready and preparing herself to be with these crazy people, like I'm sure she did all the time. As we continue on, we get another picture of Zebedee and a bunch of other people as well. I think this is them traveling probably to Jerusalem, maybe to somewhere else. Maybe they're just going to the olive grove to do some work there. Who knows? But he does have, obviously, a donkey or a mule or something. It doesn't really look like a horse to me. But he's using that for his cart, and they're carrying stuff. We saw part of this scene, I believe, before in Capernaum. And this is just the cart that they used to kind of carry everything previously. So not much context. We just see them, again, traveling on the road, just like we're seeing most of this week is kind of about that. And then we also see this, just from Luke Dimian. I've inhaled so much dust in the past few days, I think I'm becoming Sandman. I thought that was funny. And it must have been hard conditions. I mean, really, really hard out there in the middle of the sun, and everything's kind of happening here. Day 53, we see them at a campsite. So it looks like they are just kind of hanging out at this campsite, and they're probably talking about something. It's a very specific scene, probably on the road, on their way to somewhere, maybe Tel Dor, maybe Jerusalem, maybe Perea, who knows. And they're going to have specific conversations for character building and different things here. Looks like they're still wearing their older costumes. So this is maybe earlier on in the season. Yeah, I don't know.
Terrified. Hey, Dallas.
Then we see a little bit of Jerusalem here. I believe this is Jerusalem, where there are a bunch of Pharisees. And we see that big blue screen behind, which is going to be used for special effects during this episode, so they can reimpose a new background back behind there and erase the blue that's there for that. Day 54, beautiful day. This is from Akis, the cinematographer. Then we get some behind the scenes of some of the crew. Fun stuff for sure. Then we get behind the scenes of the behind the scenes from Jordan here. So I'm sure this will be an upcoming behind the scenes video from The Chosen, probably in a few weeks. But here's Jordan's behind the scenes, giving us a little bit of a sneak peek ahead of time. Here we go.
I'm rolling. Are you rolling?
Are you rolling? Okay. Jordan here is going to do a little behind the scenes of the behind the scenes while we do the behind the scenes.
Yes.
So
you're seeing how the sausage is made.
That's right. That's right. So big week. All we did this week was a bunch of field stuff and walking scenes. How has that been for you?
I mean, it's been great. I think I've gone 4 days now with like at least 12,000 steps, so that's great. And
so just a ton of walking scenes this week. So kind of boring for us in the content in terms of behind the scenes and looking at that. But there are some fun things at the end of this week that we're going to dive into for sure.
Feeling good. I'm wanting to keep it up. But yeah, it's been exhausting, but I think my stamina is like starting to build up a little bit.
Nice. Now, one thing I keep encountering is I keep stepping in the thorns and the burrs, and they keep getting in my socks and my shoes. Yes. You're in sandals. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay. I am barefoot a lot, so my feet are pretty calloused, but I do have a few blisters and have gotten a few splinters, but it's not too bad.
So what's the hardest part of a full week of walkie-talkie scenes, and what's like the best part of it?
The hard part is just the heat, the altitude sometimes can get to you, like especially if you're
So I'm sure we'll see the rest of that interview a little bit later on. Here we see a little bit of behind the scenes from Dallas's point of view as he's looking at these monitors, trying to get that perfect view of what exactly is happening in these scenes. We can't really tell what's going on too much, but we do see a new character that approaches the group, and we get a couple different angles of this. So let's check this one out right here. We We see as a horse comes up to the group and someone gets off of it. And he's carrying something on his back as well. Now here we get a different angle of it from behind. And so here is that character coming up to the group. Looks like all the group is here as well. Again, they're traveling somewhere. I'm trying to think of what this could be. I really don't know. But it does look like they're wearing their old costumes. So this is probably earlier on in the season, or at least before that costume change, which could happen in episode 7 or 8 for all we know. But yeah.
Galilean Jews.
So he says Galilean Jews, meaning they're from Galilee. I don't know how he would exactly know that. Maybe from their clothing or from the way that they look, or maybe he knows them or has heard about them. I don't know. This guy does look very interesting, though.
Whoa.
So just zooming in on him, he's wearing like this purple and pink outfit. He's got this big basket on his back. Some of the stuff on his horse and stuff looks very ornate. So I don't know who this could be or what's the reason for having him here, but very interesting character. Absolutely. Here's a little shot of the Jerusalem set showing us a little bit of behind the scenes of, different things here. We see some Romans on horses and different stuff kind of going on all over the place. So I'm trying to pause throughout just to see kind of some different things or maybe some of the background that we could recognize here. I don't really see anything too important. We see a bunch of Pharisees, of course. And then we see two Pharisees that seem to be mic'd up. There's a huge boom mic right above their head. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right here. And then these two Pharisees seem to be having some sort of conversation that we're hearing there, but I don't recognize them from this angle. I don't think it's people that we know. So maybe they're just talking about Jesus or talking about something else. I don't know. Here's another shot of Dallas behind the monitors. If we zoom in on this one, we can actually see that they're shooting Joanna. And looks like she is maybe leaving the banquet, maybe leaving Machaerus, because this is where they would be shooting here. It would be at Machaerus because they've already done all the other scenes in Capernaum. So maybe she is leaving Machaerus to go and warn the crew. But there's Joanna there. Someone says the guy on the horse, could it be Tamar's brother? Possibly. We have been kind of looking out for him since we've heard about him, but we haven't met him yet. Although I have no idea. So, who knows at the end of the day.
Noticing that there are these particular set decorations and
so here's our first look at some of the set decorations for Caesarea Philippi. Caesarea Philippi, as we've talked about many times now on this channel, is a very pagan place. It's a Roman city, but at its core, it's a pagan, idolatrous place. It's very, very rough. And so there's child sacrificing, human sacrificing that's going on. There's really, really, really nasty stuff. I don't think The Chosen's going to show 90% of what is actually going on in the actual Caesarea Philippi. I think it'll be a very watered down PG version. And so, but it will be interesting to see how they portray it overall. We're seeing masks and kind of ritualistic things, kind of pagan symbols, right?
they're giving me goose.
We're seeing human skulls, which in this context would be literal human skulls that are from sacrifices. Pretty nasty stuff.
Bumps.
Little cherub or whatever. All idolatrous sort of figurines here.
Today,
Oh, that's probably a fawn. It's probably Pan, is what that is. Pan would be a huge part of Caesarea Philippi. There was a temple to Pan at Caesarea Philippi where they would actually have goats and stuff. And a lot of people believe, or it's at least seen, that people would do stuff with the goats, if you get my drift. Very, very evil, wicked temples here, for sure. There's a huge temple and worship to Pan here. Yeah, for sure.
Today, we're at the gates of hell.
And again, the gates of hell is this spring that was originally in Caesarea Philippi that came from this mouth of a cave, a giant cave. At the front of that cave is a temple, and that temple was used for child sacrifice and other things. Very nasty, nasty stuff. So here's a little bit more behind the scenes. I think it's the same day, same things, but we can kind of see what's going on here. Remember, the purpose of them going to Caesarea Philippi is for Jesus to have a specific scene. In that scene, he changes Simon's name to Peter. That's why it's extremely important for the season. We see groups kind of separated here. Maybe some characters are walking in and out. I think we see Philip, Simon Z, Matthew, and maybe Andrew up here as well, but I can't really tell.
I'll have him take okay, that's fine, yeah. Is he a step up?
So here's that little clip. Yeah, so we have Andrew, Simon Z, Matthew, and Philip. At least. Oh, and Nathaniel's there as well. You can see his little yellow shirt there in the corner. So maybe they're here, and maybe Jesus has the closest three, John, Big James, and Simon, or who we're about to know as Peter. Maybe he's going to have them off to the side and is speaking directly to Peter there as he changes his name. That would be interesting. And then the last little bit here, we have a little bit of a shot of what I believe is Caesarea Philippi still as they're kind of getting into there. Maybe it's something else, though. I'm not 100% sure. And then here are some shots of Caesarea Philippi itself. Again, on the left here, we're seeing who I believe is Athena. Kind of a shrine to her, where you're going to see sacrifices at the base of it and candles and different things that are, to worship that idol. And then also to the right over here, it looks like we see some sort of temple or something. Not 100% sure, but that green part on top is going to be erased. This rock wall to me looks very similar to Caesarea Philippi. And so I would not doubt that this could be Caesarea Philippi here as well, seeing the first of that. And that green part is going to be erased, and then they're going to put CGI, I'm sure, above it, computer-generated images, special effects, different things. Maybe they're going to make this building look much bigger than it actually is, and so they're using that to mask out that portion of the building. Not 100% sure, but it definitely could be that. The real Caesarea Philippi looks very much like this rock wall right here. Very, very similar. And then this last little bit here, we've got some skulls and a fire going on. Up close, they don't look that real, so I hope they look more real in the show. So I'm sure we won't get too close. And then we've got a little pillar here, which is kind of like a way marker showing Caesarea Philippi and Cetus. And so different areas here where people are going, kind of marking where you are or where these locations are there. So that's the last little bit that we get from this week. There's a close-up on that. And yeah, that's all we got from the behind the scenes this week. Really interesting stuff, though, because, we see so much from Tel Dor to all the places that they're going to go, like the road to Bethany, all these other locations. But most importantly, I think, is going to be Caesarea Philippi, where we're going to see a lot of different stuff. You just watched a segment from our weekly live stream that we do every Sunday night at 6:30. If you want to watch the full 3-hour live stream, you can go over to patreon.com/thesnipelife or hit that link in the description down below to sign up over there. We'd love to see you over there. There's a ton of extra content, and I'm sure you're going to love it. All right, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.